right, class. We're back in finishing up our kangaroo. We're working on these flings from the white hairs at the edge of the ear, and then you're going to see a few gray ones out on the other side as well. And so you're going to want to blend that all the way to the edge a little bit. So it should be lighter on the edge, and then it gets darker, and then it's darkest down in here. So we're going to use the edge of our eraser, and you're going to do different little hairs. This just kind of gives it a little more definition of, how their hair looks. And then you're just barely going to touch on the inside, because you don't want to just have a row on the outside. See where all of these end at the same place? Well, you need to have some in front of those to kind of make it look like there's hair going down inside the ear, right? So you're going to put a few along the outer edge, and then bring some of the hairs that are down inside the ear as well. And we're going to make some of these come a little bit farther. Now, I want to show you how, when you use the edge of your eraser and it's too thick, then you just use your tortillon and go back in and thin that out, right? So you can use that, or you can use one of these mono zero erasers. This is the brand Tombow, and we use these in the advanced class, and they're just real thin little lines. And so you can get some more finer hairs. And if you don't have those, it's not a big deal. You just use what you have. Just use the edge of your eraser, and then you can come back in and thin up the lines with your tortillon. Boy, even these get dirty on the edge. These little tiny ones do get dirty on the edge, and so you're going to want to clean them off the same way that you do your regular eraser. Not all of these are going up, and not all of them are going down, so make sure that you have those going in the correct direction. And that's going to be how you do these little ears. There are some, I've already done the ones here. So right along this edge of the face here, it's very, very white. And then there's some down here that's going to be a very light color. So this is kind of whiter hair down here along this bottom outer edge, and then some of these parts. If you lose the highlight of your eye, this is a great way to do that as well. Now, this highlight should be a little grayed down. This is the bright highlight, and then that one is definitely very, very gray. And as a matter of fact, we could gray up this side. His whole eye is in shadow. Seems like there's a hard line right there that I can't seem to blend out. So I'm just kind of pushing a little bit into my paper. You don't want to do it too hard, or you'll tear up the tip end of your tortillon. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so now we're going to take our dirty tortillon, and we're going to add in some of the grays. Now, right up here on the nose, you'll notice that it is gray right in here, and then it's gray on these sides of the, I don't know if you'd call those jowls or whatever, but they are right in here, and then it gets lighter. And my tortillon's not real dirty here. That is a little bit darker hair right around the outer parts here. And then this whole area here is going to be dark. And of course, we'll have to go in and make those nostrils like, you know, black, because they're holes. So you can fill in this whole area of the nose. And I've got a couple of lines here, guidelines. This was the bottom of the eye and the top of the eye. So make sure you've erased those away before you blend, because you don't want to push that line down into the surface of the paper. And what I'm going to do now is make this arc shape of what is, you know, kind of pretty much his nose. And it's going to go right in here. And it's definitely darker at the bottom. If you can't get it dark enough with your Tertullian, you can always come back in with your pencil. So right in here, it's pretty dark. It's like black. And then it fades away a little bit on the right and a little bit on the left. So we can do that. And then we're going to blend again. So it's really dark right next to that hole. And the hole kind of creates this curved look. And you can see that here's the line, and then it curves, and then there's a line that kind of goes up into the nose. And it just kind of divides, you know, the right from the left. And so we're going to put that in. This part gets blended to the bottom, this line. And I didn't have as much pencil on this side as I did the other side. There we go. And then below. Now I'm going to do the little hair texture type motion, so I can get that gray going out. And it actually kind of comes down like this. So that one I'm going to have to go back and redo. It doesn't go straight out. It actually kind of heads down on the bottom. So it heads down and then out. So I'm going to erase these here and head down like this, so that it kind of makes that arc. These actually turn up here at the top, so I can take some of those out. These go out and these go up. So that's pretty much how you're going to do the center part of his jowls right there. And then there are these little marks that you're just going to use the tip and then the side and then the tip and then the side. And you're just making some little dark marks within this space. And what you're doing is putting in these little dark marks, right? By adding in little short lines and little short little dashes to show a little bit of the, it's not absolute white. And so you're going to want to do the same thing in this dark area, but with your pencil. Well, that's a little dark. Don't push too hard, but make sure you're going in the direction. So if it goes up, then make them go up. If it goes out, then make them go out. Down, make them go down. And if they're too dark, you know, you can just kind of blend them in a little bit with your Tertullian. And that's going to help you to have the outer edges. Now, this hair goes white over this dark part. Now, this is absolute black around the tongue. So we're going to come in around that tongue and do it absolute black. And then it just kind of fades as it comes out to the side here. So it's really black in the mouth. And then it fades up and below on that these little jowl parts. There's actually not anything right there. Now I'm going to blend the bottom half of this where it kind of comes around. There's a shadow side to it. So I'm going to blend that up and out. But then I'm going to erase away the little white hairs that you see there. Using the side of your pencil. And some of them turn inward. Make sure you keep it clean. To finish out those jowls. So we're going to also come into the, that's light, up the side there. We're going to come into the nostrils now, and there is like a double. Do you see this little space right here? And then there's this little flesh of skin, and then there's the big hole, and then there's where the light is hitting inside. Now the other side is absolutely black, but the hole is actually blacker than this. So this is like 100%. This is 90. This would be 100%, but then this is like 30. So up here towards the top of the nose, not that line, or the top of the nostril, excuse me, we're going to leave a little bit of a space. And it's, you know, kind of jig-jaggy. So this line right here, we're going to go black underneath and then over into this little flesh part. So this gets lighter and then it gets really black in here. You can stay up on point in order to get into that smaller space. You don't have to use the side of your pencil. And then you're going to take your Tertullian. Now this is white and this is white, but you'll notice this is really gray through here and gray through here. Then there's a little bit of a shadow on there. So we're going to take our Tertullian. We're going to get it dirty by blending this black part in, and then we're going to push the shadowy part here, and then it's really light on the other side, and then we're just going to lightly go over this little flesh part, and it's not that thick. So I'm going to darken up that black a little bit, and this should come all the way to the outer part of the nose, like that. And then we're going to jump to this side, which it's very black in the nostril. No highlights on this side, like the highlighted skin right through here. And I'm actually going to put a little bit more on there. And around the nose, the skin around that open nostril, I'm going to darken that because you can actually see that. So the skin out here is darker than it is the highlight that's coming inside the light hitting inside the nostril just a little bit there. So yeah, and then it comes down into this part. Okay. Back to this side. I can barely see my lines from blending. So I'm going to kind of draw them back in. There's our, this is going to be so black anyway, it doesn't matter. Now, I know I've asked you guys to tell me what you have at home, supply-wise and whatnot. So I would love to know, how many of you have some charcoal at home, or have some pastels, or something that that we could do outside of just pencil and stuff. Not that, I love pencil, but something else we can do during class, then there's time off, and I can just make a whole bunch of different videos for you guys to be working on during this time. There's a little bit darker here going around, and then it's highlighted on that side. Definitely darker in here, highlighted at the top. Now this the nose here, if you draw a line going diagonal across here, this one comes to the end of this one. So this brown or darker fur or whatever definitely needs to be at the same place that this one is. So we're going to make the same type shape. Oops, I lost my jig jag. I was trying to fill it in. And then we're going to make the top part show up even more by adding in that little bit of a shadow that you see on there. I'm not pressing very hard. I don't want a harsh line. So remember, practice your gentle strokes. And it just seems like this side is so much bigger than this one because of the blackness of it. So you can actually come back in and make that nostril a little darker if you'd like, in order to break up that sameness, so that it's going to look more like the other side. I'm just barely touching the paper because I don't want much pigment on there. And so we can get that both sides of the nostrils to kind of, look the same. All right, we're going to go back down into the mouth, and he definitely has black on both sides. And then there's the tongue, and it's blackest here and it's lightest on the outside. So we literally can go ahead and do our lines like this. This is the black part. And the tongue almost looks like it's kind of curled. I don't know if any of y'all can curl your tongues, but apparently this kangaroo can. And we're just going to take that color all the way through. You can see that it's darker in the center. It's not like there's a line. So shade to the right of that line, shade to the left of that line, and just make the center part look a little darker than the rest of the tongue. And then we're gonna blend out our shadowed sides. And this curves upward. So I don't need the bottom half there. Okay. And then we're going to blend the same way that we drew it. So it's darker at the top, and then just softly blending at the bottom. So it looks like something's going on inside of his mouth, but you can't, it's not like really in focus. And actually, it's a little more pointed than I have it. I have it very round. So I'm going to just kind of soften that area. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing on this side that we did on that side, except for almost the entire face is going to have a light wash of Dirty Tritillon. Even up into these hairs here, you're just going to lightly wash so that you don't have any of the white of the paper. This is the white side of him. And, well, I just lost all my lines, didn't I? Try that again. And then we're going to make some of these marks into the hair dark. Some of them are small, some of them are larger. And you just kind of, instead of having that hard line, you want to bring some of those darks up into that part of the face, and so it looks all fuzzy and hairy. You can also come into this space here on both sides and take out tiny little white hairs that you see all over his face. They kind of go down here in the front especially, and then some of them come over into the mouth. So these that I'm lifting out are very white next to that black. So I'm going to need to just take my Dirty Tritillon and kind of lightly go over those so it looks like they're on the shadow side, but they're still there. Does that make sense? And then on the other side, they are white. So let's just make those absolutely white. If you have a kneaded eraser, this works well with a kneaded eraser as well as this little Tombow. You can lift out charcoal really well with a kneaded eraser. And if any of them start to get too long or whatever, you can feel free to thin them out with your Tritillon. And we're going to take our Dirty Tritillon, and where the mouth opens up into the chin, you'll see that there is a slight gradation. So we're going to rub our Tritillon and soften that edge as it comes out of the mouth, so it looks like it's going into the mouth. And then you have this little spot. You see that little circle that we drew? This little piece of hair right here, I don't particularly know what it's for. I'm just going to erase it out somewhat. And we're going to fill that in pretty dark. And it goes in a perfectly radiating circle. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black in the direction that I want it to go, like this. So it kind of starts right there and radiates out. And then you're going to blend it the same way that you just drew it. So you're going to blend it out into his chin. And I like to push forward. It's easier for me. So I turn my book to go in the direction that I want this little spot to be. There is a little bit of shading on the bottom of his chin down here. And then this side is in shadow. So we're just going to kind of take some of this black here and blend that in and blend it along the line of the gray fur into the white fur. And he has a very fuzzy chin. So to put that in, you want to make sure you get rid of the outline lines. Otherwise, you're going to push that line into the surface of the paper. So, well, I'm using this little bitty one, but it's okay. And then you're going to just make a few skinny marks to show that this side is fuzzy as well. And then you're going to lift off your little hairs. And some of them are kind of long. So we're going to put in some of these little, I don't know, kind of looks like a goatee or something. Some of these little marks. And once we get the shoulder in, it's going to show a little bit more. I'm actually going to take some of this out right here, as his nose is a little wider than that. And then I'm going to lift off some of those little hairs again. And they go down. So I'm just kind of creating a little fuzzy texture on this side. And then these go this way. So I'm going to get rid of that line by lifting off. And I'm going to use my Dirty Tritillon to create this second little line. There is like just kind of showing the thickness of the bridge. Notice I'm not pressing very hard. It's a light gray. Look at your picture. It is light. Don't get it super dark. And I'm going to round out the nose a little bit more. And I might put in a few little tiny hair strokes. Just laying down. I'm just laying it down like that. I don't know if you can see these tiny little strokes. I'll make a few more just so you can see them better. But I'm just kind of laying down my Tritillon. It's not like an absolute white, but it is so much lighter than the other hair that's around it. Also, this kind of looks like an eyebrow over here. This one is lighter than what's in the middle. So I'm going to lift out some little highlights on this side as well, creating that other little eyebrow area. Make sure you're turning this in your hand as you're working, or you'll get you'll be putting dirty back on instead of lifting it off. All right. Now I'm going to take my Tritillon and go behind that a little bit just to make it stand out a little more as lighter fur. So there we have it. Break up that harsh line that was there. You know how we do that? Just using the tip end when we're doing fur. Just using the tip end. Okay. Now we're going to start in on his body, and we're going to fling some of these little longer hairs, but we have to get this shadow part in first. So I'm actually going to take and dirty up my Tritillon again. Just go in the same spot again. That puts a lot of pigment right there. Then you're just going to take your Tritillon and pick up that. That's for some of my newer students. So I know you guys have gotten that down. Having all these little marks in the background. We don't want that. So I'll put my hand in it. Okay. Now I'm going to rub my Dirty Tritillon over this whole thing, and then I'm going to come back and add some pencil in there. So here we go, nice and dirty Tritillon. I don't even know if his arm would curve this way, but it is what it is because I don't have it in the reference photo. It looks cool. Then I'm going to jig-jag all along the base where his little beard is going to be, and then I'm going to blend that down. That just kind of helps me to know where to put some of the whites. Now, each one of those looking like they're the same, you can come in and break them up, you know, by making smaller hairs, you know, just like we were using it to do smaller hairs and thin out hairs and stuff like that. Feel free to do that. And then this area is going to be darker. I'm pressing a little bit harder But, you know, you don't want to press through to the other page. That's definitely not going to be dark enough. So I'm going to come in with my pencil. Put in a layer. One of the great things about a tortillon is that, or a blending stump, is that it gets rid of all the little fuzziness of the paper so that everything just really kind of flows into itself. And this is a little bit darker here. Make sure you do a nice wash of color. Don't go too heavy. But his shoulder up here is definitely lighter. So, whoops. I say that, then I make a dark mark. That's okay. We know how to lift out, right? Just tap, tap. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in, and even though I am got these smooth washes and stuff like that, I want to go in the direction of the fur. So this fur kind of comes out and down. It actually curves this way. As I'm blending, I want to make the fur in the correct direction. So even over here, I should have been going in this direction and not just doing it flat. But there's always ways to fix drawings. And we keep doing this. We're not going to need to do too much more than just lift-offs. And it actually ends about right there. That looks like it's going to go down darker in here. So I'm going to do that darker. And then over here, this is so sporadic. I don't know how to do that kind of a motion, so I am just going to blend it smoother. Definitely have a little bit of color up here, so when we do our lift-offs, we have something to show it against. You can't lift off in a white space. So we're going to darken that up. And just take it off the corner of the page. You don't want to hold this, or your fingers are gonna get dirty, but you can get really close. And then just rub the tip. Okay, so now we need to make sure that this hair is darker than this hair. So in our picture, you can see that the side of the face, or the back side of the head actually, is lighter and not the scraggly hair. So we are going to have to put a little bit more pigment in there. But this side is definitely lighter than this, and it's definitely lighter than this one. So we just keep having to make adjustments. As you go to how dark and how light an area is relative to other areas. So if this area is this dark, which, you know, if I come and lighten this up, then I'd have to lighten that one up. So what I need to do is make this darker. And I'm going in the direction of the fur, even with my pencil marks. And I'm not making it perfectly even. So, and it's definitely darker up underneath here. And then there's this all along this darkest spot. So let's make this even darker. And it's medium to dark through here. And the only lighter area is right on the outer edge. So we're just going to put that medium tone in the direction of the fur. Once again, we get to blend. And we can always go back and darken. We can always go back and, there's two dark spots. I'm not sure what these dark spots are right here, other than just maybe the fur is kind of, you know, kind of bent in on itself. but it's right in here. And then it's really dark right next to some of these little hairs. So if you want to put some darker in there, you can. That's his chin casting a shadow on his chest, just like anything else with a chin that protrudes. Okay. And we're going to blend, 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 blend. Don't worry about every single little hair because, you know, we're going to go back and lift those. He is very fuzzy on the edge. And this side is definitely in shadow. So it is darker. And we're going to put that edge all the way out. Now I'm holding down this page that has this, so if I move my fingers to another space, it might transfer the pigment. My fingers become like a stamp, so it'll dirty up your pictures. So if you're having to hold your paper down, like I am, just know that you may have to clean your hands before you touch anything and whatsoever in the background. Ouch. Okay, so most of this hair, and you can kind of come in and do some, you know, kind of scraggledy marks with your dirty Tritilian, because it should be pretty dirty after doing all this dark. And this is just going to help. Now, his shoulder is a little bit out of focus, so it's all going to look soft up there. And in this area, you're going to come in with your highlights, and you're just going to kind of squiggle them, some going to the right, some going to the left, and it's going to look, you know, and I don't want to see anybody doing this. He doesn't have long hair like ours, right? And if you get something too long, all you got to do is just go back in with your dirty Tritilian and blend that out, right? So these are kind of short, but they're not perfectly straight hairs like these little short hairs on his face. So bring some of them out into this darker area. Clean it off every once in a while. Clean off your eraser every once in a while, so that you kind of know where you're going and what you're doing. You don't have to follow an exact pattern. So if you want to create, just like we took a long time doing all of these little bitty strokes, you need to take just as much time doing all these little bitty strokes up here as well. This is usually the time in class where I send y'all back to do your, y'all go do it to your picture. So I'm probably going to stop this pretty soon and let y'all go work on your own pieces. Wow, some of these come way over. Look at that. And some of them are dark, but they're not black. So hold your pencil farther away, and in order to put these they're coming, whoops, I have these coming out of the bottom part, but they all come out of the top part. So if you make a mistake, it's no big deal. Just use your Tritilian to take that out, right? Like this. And and you're going to take them from this area above the tongue, right? And so there are a few that go up like that. And then a lot of them kind of curve down like this. Look at the picture that you have, and some of them are just short, really short. Okay, so a few of them are white. If you want to sit there and count them, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 black ones, you can do that. Just put in enough to where you can understand, oh, those are whiskers. And so I'm holding my pencil farther back. I'm staying up on point so it stays thin, and then I'm going in the direction that I want these little whiskers to go. And since I did it on this side, most of these on this side, you can only see the white ones, but I think it would balance it out a little better to have a few of them on this side to go dark as well. So we're just going to put in a few on both sides, and then continue doing lift-offs and continue doing our fur. And all you've got to do in this area is the lift-offs left. And this side over here definitely looks straighter until you get close to this V section. And then it looks like there are some kind of more straggledy hairs like all of this over here. So just make sure that some of it's going up, some of it's going down. You don't want to go wiggle, wiggle, wiggle and create a pattern. That's not what you want. So make sure that you're, you know, it's very random in your patterns here. In this middle section, there's just a few highlights that you see, and not too much. All right, so I'm going to let you guys finish out all this little scraggly hair, and I want you to send me your pictures. I look so forward to seeing all what you guys are doing. So finish up your kangaroo, send me your pictures, and I can't wait to see how they turned out. Have a great day.